Welcome back. You're still watching the Daily Debate, and I'm honored to be having with me in the studio for tonight Mr. Mohamed Sabreen, the journalist and the political analyst. Thank you very much for being with us tonight.
Thank you for having me tonight.
Of course, we will be shedding more light on the Egyptian-African bilateral relations, and more specifically the African Security and Peace Council. First of all, how do you see the importance of the boost and the enhancement of the bilateral relations between Egypt and Africa, and more specifically in the past 10 or 11 years under the tenure of President Sisi?
First of all, we have to remember that Egypt is considered to be one of the father of liberation movement for Africa.
Yes.
And Egypt historically supported all the liberations movement across Africa. And since then, it is a big element of the Egyptian foreign policy is to support Africa and to defend Africa and speak in behalf of Africa in the international arena at any specific organization, United Nations, etc. This phenomenon is actually took a very deep push during President al-Sisi and the Egyptian government under the leadership of President Sisi emphasized more and more toward Africa. And our foreign minister, Dr. Badr Abdul Ati, his first visit after he was appointed as a foreign minister,
yes,
was to an African country, and this was sending a signal that Egypt is supporting Africa, is looking after Africa, and Africa is looking to Egypt. And the international community recognize that Egypt is not only one of the champion or a leader of Africa, but what they call it right now, the Global South. So Egypt is one of the leaders of the Global South, carry its own agenda and the agenda of Africa and developing countries.
How do you see the agenda of the security and stability for Africa and the main contributions of Egypt to be having and keeping the security and stability of the continent?
Now it is, Egypt do have its own way of thinking, and it is very simple. If you don't have stability and peace, you are not going to have, prosperity, or you are not going to be fulfilling, the aspiration and the needs of your own ordinary citizens. So this is what Egypt is adhering, what Egypt is believing in, and I think Egypt is spreading the message, not only in Africa but also in the Middle East. Let's have peace, then peace will lead us to stability, and stability will lead us, to have security, and also to have fulfilling, and concentrating more and more in development, issue. The other thing, Egypt is supporting, reserving, the national state.
Yes.
And this is very important, and supporting that, every country do have or should have a very stable and a strong, armed forces to protect, its borders and to protect its own people.
On the other hand, how do you see the diplomatic relations? As you mentioned, they have been better and better under the leadership of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi for the past decade or so. How do you think they have changed over the past 10 or 11 years?
I think, if you notice, First of all, there is a lot of different views among, Egyptian elites. Africa is no longer, a land of troubles, but it's land of promises, and we are connecting more and more with our roots, because by the end of the day, we are an African countries. We are the leader of the African continent. So you will have it, through a lot of countries, head of states coming to Egypt, a lot of, events, and a very active role of Egypt defending, if I think all of us remember how Egypt defended, the African and the global South right to get a fair, contribution from developed countries in, the environmental damage which, happened, and also a lot of initiatives, to support African development, soft ones, demolishing a lot of debts for the poorest countries in Africa, and of course, in terms of football and all sports, we are very connected.
Yes, Egypt is a founding member of the African Union. How do you see Egypt impacting the policies and the initiatives, as you mentioned, Mr. Mohamed, of the African Union for the benefit of the African citizen?
Yeah, I think, we have to mention in this regard, that Egypt did actually contributed and play a major role for the free trade agreement among all the African countries.
Yes.
And by putting the African issues in the agenda of the international community, defending, the African issues, and trying to help to fulfill. I think, Africa nowadays, everybody speaks about Africa as a big, player in the international arena. And by help of Egypt and other friends to Egypt, I think, Egypt and the others, helped African countries to get better deals in dealing with the rest of the international community.
Yes, regarding the trade relations between Egypt and Africa, do you think that this has improved over the past decade?
I think, it is improving. Still, we are looking and hoping. I was a bureau chief of Al-Ahram in South Africa for 4 years, and I know how the African countries and African people are looking after Egypt, and consider Egypt is a very important country. Egypt don't have any hidden agenda, a very sincere and trusted partner. So we are in the process, trying to connect, especially transportation, and spreading the message, a positive message regarding Africa and the opportunities in Africa in terms of trade, investment, and also for our workers, the very sophisticated doctors and etc. We do have huge opportunities for Egyptian products, and also Egyptian trade and Egyptian human capitals.
You've mentioned some of the key sectors that we need to be improving the economic collaboration between Egypt and Africa, like transportation, for example, or manpower and labor. What are the other sectors, in your opinion, that could be and should be improved for the upcoming years?
I think, the African, do have a lot of aspiration, and they do have huge resources, oil, minerals and etc. And they need and they want to raise the standard of living. I think, Egypt do have a very sophisticated industries, and it's very easy for us, to collect or pick some, key countries to try to be, increase our presence there and spread from this chosen country to the neighboring one. I think, ceramic, appliance, and etc. All sophisticated. We do have a very advanced, IT sector. So we do have, we could help them to build the capacity, for their own institution. I think, Egypt is ready and willing and is doing already whatever she can do to help our African brothers and sisters.
Yes, and speaking of Egypt doing what could be done and should be done, Egypt is participating in the African Continental Free Trade Area. What is the importance of Egypt joining this agreement and the agreement itself for the benefit of the African brothers and sisters?
Let me put it in this way, the American, the Turkey, India, and, for instance, if we speak about India, the trade between India and African continent is, I think, if I remember correctly, it's exceeding 100 billion US dollar.
Yes.
So I think, there is a willing from our African, neighbors and countries, and there is a lot of big successful story. If we speak about Rwanda, they are doing amazing, things. They have growth by double digit, and they are proving themselves as a good destination. We do have a very good relation with South Africa, and we should open up more and more, to West Africa, where our brothers from Lebanese origin, they are doing very well. And I remember 1996 and 1995. They transfer to Lebanon between 7 to 8 billion US dollar every year. So in total, 15 billion US dollars. So Africa, there is a lot of things we could do and we should do.
In terms of the security and the stability of Africa, Egypt has a prominent role in participating in the African peacekeeping missions. How do you see the importance of balancing the national security and the national interests of Egypt with the regional stability and the continental security for Africa?
It's a very good question. Now we are increasing our support to Somalia, because Somalia is a sister country. It's an Arab country, but also is a very important one. Everyone now understand fully how the importance of the Red Sea, and the corridors of whereas this maritime canals or routes, it's very important for the international trade, and also for the movement of oil, and very important. And by chance, Africa do have a lot of what they call it the rare mineral, which is very essential for the future industries, like the new batteries and the new IT things. So we need to secure, these corridors, because it is very important, not only for the security of African countries, but also for the security of Egypt and the rest of the world. So the two things are very connected, actually.
It's not just about politics and the economy. There's also cultural activities and exchanges between Egypt and Africa, and even educational initiatives. You mentioned even football and sports between Egypt and the African counterparts in general. How do you see the importance of these cultural exchanges between Egypt and Africa, and the educational initiatives as well?
It is very important because, I remember, I was in Durban, in South Africa, and I met, some African people, and they told us we are from Rwanda, and we are, the original of the Egyptians. They said, that the Egyptians actually coming from Rwanda. So I was very pleased, because by the end of the day, I consider myself, and we are, as Egyptian, we consider ourselves as part of this, lovely and very important continent, which is Africa. And I remember, Thabo Mbeki, the former president of South Africa, used to, to say that, the coming century will be the African century. So it is very important to know how these people are very humble and very friendly, and they are coming. We need to understand more about our roots and our neighbors and our brothers. So it is very important. Culture, cinema, football, etc., and human contact with these people. Yeah.
So what are the challenges that are facing Egypt and the Egyptians in terms of collaboration, to be increasing this collaboration and cooperation with the Africans?
I think, we moved a long way. It's no longer, the stereotype, the negative stereotype regarding, Africa, and that Africa, a lot of disease and whatsoever. I think, we need to do more, and we need to educate our youth, graduate student, that there is a huge opportunity, for us, to live and work and start a very small business in African countries. It is very, a lot of African countries actually are very safe and peaceful, and they moved away from, the trouble, period of time.
So what are the strategic priorities for the near future for Egypt to be strengthening its role in Africa?
You have to start, you have to start first, with your neighbor, the immediate one. So
yes.
The immediate one are, the countries, our brothers who are living very near from us, around the Nile. We share, the most important and most fatal, river in the world. So we need to do more and more, and to understand each other fully, and to cooperate, and to, to get engaged more and more. This is, in my opinion, this is the first one, the first important, and also the southern of desert, beyond, Libya and, the Arab, the North African countries, the immediate countries, Mali, Burkina Faso, Chad and Niger. It is very important, because in these countries there is a lot of, a violent, organization. We need to help them to stabilize their countries, and these countries, actually, do have very good connections with the Arabs and the Egyptian, and they do have affecting our security.
To be mediating the regional conflicts is one of the cornerstones of the strategy of Egypt, to be having bigger and better relationships with the African brothers and sisters, including Sudan, for example, Libya, as you've mentioned, the whole of Africa, in Somalia. How do you see the achievements that we have had, more specifically, not just historically, but in the past 10 years under President Sisi?
You know, Egypt, as we touched at the beginning, Egypt don't have any hidden agenda. Egypt never, at any stage, do have any desire, to take any land or to take advantage of any countries, whatsoever. So, Egypt is considered to be the big brother. Everyone looking to Egypt, so Egypt do have, the trust, and the trust is very important in the subject we are speaking about. You need the mediator, the one who go between, the conflict, partner or parties, to be trusted, and he do have, in Egypt we have one of the oldest and the most sophisticated school of diplomacy, and I remember back again, when South Africa, after apartheid, and they host the largest, non-alignment conference. They did ask Egypt to send one of its own diplomat to help them to organize this big event. So Egypt do have a lot of credentials, trust, and also a very wise leadership.
Yes, Mr. Mohamed Sabreen, the journalist and the political analyst. Thank you very much for being with us tonight on the Daily Debate.
Thank you.
And this brings us to the end of the Daily Debate for tonight. Thank you for watching, and I'll be seeing you tomorrow.